The movie screen presents the true story of the pursuit of happiness. It is the true story of Chris Gardner's life, which may inspire you to do something in your life. The story begins in 1981, where we are shown San Francisco. Chris Gardner invests his life savings in buying a portable bone density scanner. However, fate does not favor Chris, and the machine turns out to be a complete flop in the market. Now, selling his machine and scanner becomes extremely difficult for him. As a result, his financial condition gradually worsens. Chris, along with his wife Linda and son Christopher, resides in a rented house. Christopher's school fees, house rent, and various other expenses add up, and the burden falls on Linda. Consequently, their relationship starts to deteriorate, even though there is no financial fault on the part of Chris or his wife. Despite facing significant financial struggles, Chris works hard. To run his home, he needs to sell 4 scanners every month, but selling even 1 scanner becomes a challenging task. One day, when Chris is on the phone with his client, a magnificent car stops in front of him and a man steps out. Chris is captivated by the car and cannot help but ask the man, "I got 2 questions. What do you do, and how do you do it?" The man points towards a building and says, "I am a share broker." When Chris looks towards that building, everyone coming out of it looks happy and content. A stark contrast to Chris's life, which has almost vanished in struggles. Determined to change his fate, Chris decides to become a share broker. He goes home and tells his wife that he is thinking of quitting his job and doing something else. His wife agrees, mentioning that no one is interested in buying his scanners anyway. Chris decides to become a share broker, leaving his wife astounded with his sudden decision. However, she teases him, saying, "Not an astronaut," meaning he doesn't want to become an astronaut. In reality, she lacks confidence in his decision and mocks him. Upon hearing this, Chris feels uneasy, and his wife decides that she won't stay with him. She leaves with their son. Chris is furious and confronts his wife, stating that if she wants to leave, she can, but his son will stay with him because he loves his son deeply. And he also knows that legally, he cannot take his son from his wife. However, during this time, his wife secures a job in Europe, leading to Chris having to go to Europe. Chris is reunited with his son. Chris is staying in a house where he hasn't paid rent for several months, and one day, the owner comes to him and says that he needs to get his house painted. Chris has to vacate the house, but he requests a few more days. The owner agrees, saying Chris can stay for an extra week if he paints the house. Meanwhile, Chris applies for a job in the share market. The next day, during his interview, the police arrive at his home, arresting him for not paying parking tickets. Although he pleads with the police to let him go, they say they can't release him until the next morning at 10:40 a.m. due to their rules. The next morning, when Chris is released, he rushes straight to his interview, as he doesn't even have money for bus fare, and his clothes are covered in paint. Waiting in the lobby, a girl comes in and calls his name, Chris Gardner. Chris, lacking confidence in his shabby appearance, hesitates for a moment before standing up and following her to the interview panel. Everyone is surprised to see Chris dressed in such dirty clothes, as no one had ever come for an interview in such attire. Before they can question Chris, he starts explaining that he was trying to come up with a story for the past half hour, wondering why he came dressed like this. But he couldn't come up with any story, and the truth is that he was arrested the night before for not paying parking tickets. Everyone is astonished, as this seems trivial compared to the stories they were expecting. They proceed to ask about his education, and Chris reveals he completed the 12th class and was first in his class. When asked about the number of students in his class, he confidently replies, 8. Upon hearing this, everyone starts looking at each other, surprised that being first in a class of 8 is not a significant achievement. Chris adds that he was also first in the Navy, where there were 21 people, but nobody talks to each other. Chris seems to have failed the interview, but before they inform him of their decision, he says that if someone comes to him with a question and he doesn't know the answer, he would straightforwardly admit it. However, he can guarantee that he knows how to find the answer and is always searching for it. This statement impresses everyone, and the senior person in the room asks Chris why, if a man comes to him for an interview unconditionally and he hires him on the spot, what's the reason? Chris responds, maybe he was wearing really nice pants. This unexpected answer makes everyone burst into laughter, and Chris is selected for the job. In this panel, there's a man named Czech, whom Chris already knows. Czech tells Jack that he'll let him know if he'll join the internship or not after thinking about it. Upon hearing this, Chris is surprised, and he tells Czech that for the past few days, Jack has been doing things for this job like crazy. Now, when he has been selected, he says he'll let them know. After thinking, Chris explains that he didn't know it was an internship. His financial situation has completely changed now. It's an intensive program where 20 people are chosen, and they will be trained for 6 months. After 6 months, only one from the 20 will be selected. Chris is thoroughly confused about whether to join this job or not. Jack says he has until tomorrow morning to decide. If he doesn't give an answer by tomorrow morning, Jack will replace him with someone else. Chris goes home and decides to join the internship. He joins it, and with his scanner, he manages to gather enough money to have a monthly budget. He shifts to a smaller house and lives with his son. One evening, when he returns from the office, he receives a letter from the bank stating that since he hasn't filed his taxes, the government has taken all the money from his bank account. This news changes Chris's entire world. He has no decent means to earn money now. Although he tries calling government officials, it's of no use. Some more days pass, and he can't even pay the rent for his house. One night, when he returns with his son, he finds his belongings outside. He doesn't know where to go. He has his son, his belongings, but no money. He goes to his friend who once borrowed some dollars from him, but the friend doesn't open the door because he doesn't want to return the money. Chris is completely hopeless. He has his belongings, his little son, but doesn't know what to do. He takes his son to a game where he asks her to visualize things. His son joins in, and in the course of the game, he takes him to the metro station restroom. He locks the door from inside, sells some papers downstairs, and sits on them, taking his son in his lap. He knows that tonight will be spent in the toilet, and although people sometimes knock on the door, Chris doesn't open it. Tears are in his eyes. Chris has never felt more helpless in his life than this. After dropping his son off at school the next morning, he goes to work, and upon returning, finds his son waiting outside the school gate. Now, he seeks shelter, but is told it's only for females and children. Chris loves his son immensely and doesn't want to leave him. He tries another shelter, where he's told he must arrive on time due to limited space. The real struggle for Chris begins. Despite his office hours until 7:00 p.m., he decides to work until 5:00 p.m. to make it on time, sacrificing water intake to avoid bathroom breaks. His days are now spent working, taking his son to school, and waiting in shelter lines. This will waste time, and he will not be able to finish his work by 5:00 p.m. Working hard all day long, works to get his son to school at night, and then gets in line for church. He still has one scanner left and wants to earn some money by selling it. One day he takes his son to play basketball, although his son is playing, but Chris is broken inside, and with this broken heart, he tells his son to never let anyone tell him that he cannot do anything. When people are unable to do something themselves, they want to tell you that you too will not be able to do it. If you have dreams, you have to make them come true if you want to achieve anything in life. So go and snatch that thing away. The matter ends here. Actually, Chris tells his son from his heart that he also wants to do something like this in his life, for which he is struggling. Please, the bun scanner child has. He takes him to a doctor in a hospital. This doctor wants to buy the scanner, but when Chris gives a demo of it, the machine doesn't work, which breaks Chris's heart because he has completely exhausted all the money. When he returns, he checks the machine at night and finds out that a part of it is damaged. And he doesn't have money to buy the parts. He takes his son Christopher to a hospital where he has to sell his blood, for which he gets some money. And he did a part with that money. After coming back, when he puts the part in the machine gets fixed, which makes him very happy, and now he earns some money by selling the machine. And he does not go to church with his son today. He has rented a nice room where both of them spend the night there. After many days, they watch TV, and at night, both of them sleep there. Chris is working hard, so he makes calls the whole day, meets people personally, and after coming back, he also does his studies because his exam is about to happen in the real internship. There is also a written exam which is very important to pass, and there are 19 people in all the sections with Chris. All of them are highly qualified, but Chris was only 12th pass. For the exam day and night, Chris has prepared very well. That is why he's the first to pass the exam. Along with that, there is an interview. After giving it, he comes with his exam mate in this lift in which he is going. And when they talk about the exam, the man asks him, "How was your exam?" Chris says that everything was easy. "I just had a little problem in such questions." Hearing this, he asks with surprise. In fact, he had not even seen such questions, which were behind the question paper. He runs towards the exam room, but perhaps now he has no idea about such questions. There is no use, and the day comes when the results of the exam are to be declared, where one person will be selected for the job, and after that, everyone is called, and when Chris is called, all the same people are there. Everyone interviewed him first. The one who is most senior of those, he says to the Chris that "You have worn a very nice shirt today, that today is my last day here. I thought, why not? I should wear a nice shirt and go." He says, "If you have to wear this shirt tomorrow too, would you like to wear it?" Hearing this, how? Tears well up in Chris's eyes, because in the past, Chris have only been struggling more. About whom no one knows, he does not have a house, he does not even have enough money for food, and he also has the responsibility of his son. Chris says yes, that means Chris has got a job. Senior asks him what? It was easy. Chris says no, it was not easy at all. And now everything is fine in Krish's life. And at the end of this story, we are shown where Krish has to go with his son. And then a man crosses from there, and this is the same real Chris Gardner on whom this entire story is completed. And then a man crosses from there, and this is the same real Chris Gardner on whom this entire story is based on his real life. After a few years, he leaves his job and wants to open his own firm, which will later earn millions of dollars. He is a very rich man. He is also a motivational speaker, and he motivates people in life, so that like him, people can also be successful in life. So this was the whole story on Pursuit of Happyness. We hope that you like this story.